Hello, my name is Anna Błasiak,
And my name is Rosie Goldsmith.
and we are the hosts of the Polka podcast on Polish books in English.
Every 2 months, we'll be bringing you topical news, views, and interviews and sharing our excitement over this new golden age of Polish literature in translation.
The Polka podcast is produced by the European Literature Network in collaboration with the Polish Cultural Institute in London.
It's available for free on all your favourite podcast platforms.
Welcome to the Polka podcast. Now, in this episode, Anna and I will be taking a closer look at the main festivals in the UK which feature Polish writers and translators. And the reason we're focusing on this topic is because the European Writers' Festival takes place this merry month of May at the British Library. It's a unique festival in the UK and it's organised by UNIC London. That's the acronym for the European Union National Institutes of Culture, of which the Polish Cultural Institute is a member, supporting, as it does, the festival appearance of the Polish author Małgorzata Lebda. The European Literature Network, that's me and Anna and our team, is a key partner. And I'm the festival's curator. So you can tell this is for us a really important festival.
As head of literature at the Polish Cultural Institute, my role has been to invite Małgorzata Lebda to the festival. She appears with 25 other leading writers from all over Europe. The Polish Cultural Institute sees this as a major honor and boost for Polish literature in translation. We'll be hearing from Małgorzata and from her translator Antonia Lloyd-Jones later in this podcast. Before we do, Rosie and I want to set the scene and talk more generally about the festivals that regularly feature Polish writers and translators. Rosie, how many literary festivals are there in the UK and which are the ones to watch?
Now, I knew you were going to ask me that, Hannah, and I did try to count, but it is impossible to know exactly. The fact is that across the villages, towns, and cities of the UK, there are hundreds and hundreds of book festivals of every possible format and size. It's a real phenomenon, from small local affairs to large international gatherings, like the Hay Festival in Wales and International Literature Festival in Dublin. They're both in May. Edinburgh International Book Festival in August, and London and Cheltenham Literature Festivals in October. Now, I've worked at all of them as an interviewer, so I do know a little bit about this. And the inclusion of foreign poets, prose writers, and translators has been growing over the past decade. And today I'd say it's finally considered normal, if you like, to include them. The big festivals are really exemplary in that they obviously have more capacity and funding. But even the smaller festivals, and by extension their local audiences, are increasingly open to translated literature and foreign accents. It costs more, flights, of course, and fees and overnight stays to include authors from abroad. But publishers and festival directors know there's nothing better for audiences, and indeed for book sales, than meeting writers face to face. Book prizes, such as the Booker, Dublin and EBRD international prizes, as well as several specific awards for translation, support this healthy ecosystem too, as do the growing numbers of independent bookshops and bookshop events in the UK.
I've heard somebody say that every village in the UK has its own literature festival.
I think that's probably true now, actually, yeah.
The big names in foreign literature are often the trailblazers, and that's great too. Olga Tokarczuk opened doors to other writers. Rosie, you first interviewed Olga many years ago in a bookshop in London, didn't you?
Indeed I did, and that's where I met you, also the
Yes.
first time.
Polish literature in English is doing well in Britain. The main reason is that the quality of the prose and poetry is very high. Having a large Polish population here is another reason, as is a new generation of Polish British writers living here, like me, and Wioletta and Maria Jastrzębska, Tomasz Mielcarek, Agnieszka or Agata Masłowska, and many more.
Can I just ask you, Anna, do you see yourself now as British Polish or Polish British? Not just as Polish, yeah?
No, definitely not, because I write in both languages and actually more often in English than in Polish these days.
And what about the other writers like Wioletta and Maria, Tomasz, Agnieszka and Agata? Do they see themselves as Polish-British or as British or Polish?
I would probably think that they would maybe switch the adjectives depending on which language is their main or the only language that they write in. Because Wioletta writes in Polish, Tomasz Mielcarek writes in Polish, but the rest of them, Maria, Agnieszka and Agata, write in English.
But they're really well known, though, in Britain as British-Polish writers, if you like. So.
Yes, but Maria, who came as a small child, she writes only in English, but her writing is so Polish, her thinking is so Polish. It's peppered with references and even Polish words, so you can't really untangle it.
It's fascinating. And it's the first generation,
Yeah.
isn't it? You all belong to this generation, a new generation of Polish-British writers.
Yes. Here in the UK, there are many independent publishers promoting Polish and other international literatures, such as Linden Editions, Małgorzatas publisher, one of 3 publishers of her books, Peirine Press, Fitzcarraldo, and other stories, and so on. Last month, I launched my own imprint, Sideways Press, focusing on poetry in translation, mainly from Polish.
Many congratulations on that, by the way, Anna.
Thank
and there's
you
your
very
dog
much.
trying to get in, I think.
Yes.
I can hear your dog in the background.
Yes, that's true. She wants to be in on the Polka podcast.
Of course she does.
Let's not forget also that there's an outstanding European Poetry Festival curated by Stephen Fowler, which is taking place mostly in the early summer. I think we know now that it's June and July this year. And that festival has been running since 2018. Last year already, Małgorzata Lebda was invited from Poland to attend some British festivals, including the Hay Festival. This year, we have invited her to the European Writers' Festival as well as Edinburgh International Book Festival. The science fiction writer Jacek Dukaj will also be coming to Edinburgh, and we have 9 Polish poets, some of them Polish-British or British-Polish, appearing at the European Poetry Festival in June, and hopefully at some other poetry festivals in the autumn. Watch this space. So, there is a notable increase in the Polish literary presence at festivals in the UK.
Ah, fantastic. Now, drum roll, please, or at least jingle or something lively and musical, because now let's talk about the European Writers' Festival, as we said right at the beginning. Now, we launched it in 2023 at the British Library, and this year it's our 3rd festival. The idea is that over one packed weekend of panel discussions and readings, we hear from anything up to 30 writers from all over Europe. The criteria for inclusion in the festival are that the authors are first and foremost outstanding, that goes without saying, whether they are emerging debut authors or indeed established, that they represent the diversity of Europe, that they have recent translations into English and can speak English, although, of course, we make exceptions. All their books are on sale during the festival, and there's lots of networking over the weekend. It's a fantastic weekend. And the other really important thing for me as a professional interviewer about this festival is that I make sure that all the panel chairs are at the top of their game, because chairing and interviewing is also a skill. And being sensitive to foreign writers and their cultures is essential for this event.
It's a great festival. It's incredibly diverse, brings together very different voices, provides a platform for inspiring exchange of ideas and viewpoints, and it has a real good buzz. It's unique in the UK, a really important response to Brexit from all of us who believe in nurturing UK-European relations, soft diplomacy, if you like. Having it take place in Britain's great National Library proves that commitment. Before the festival, though, I know that a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. The process works like this. I first heard about it through the Polish Cultural Institute in December last year, when I was asked to propose 3 Polish authors and to agree to support their stay in London if they are selected. The 3 names were then submitted to you, Rosie, as festival curator, and to your selection committee.
And you can imagine we had not just the Polish submissions, we had 26 in total. So 26 times 3 is a lot of authors to think about and to whittle down and so on, and a lot of books to read, a lot of extracts to read. And, this took quite a few weeks. And what we end up doing is we discuss their individual strengths, and ultimately the panels that they are best suited to. And the themes of the panel discussions for the festival are, I think, an art in themselves and reflect what's going on in the world and what the authors are interested in themselves, from immigration to climate change to war and human rights. Now, at the beginning of February this year, we decided that of the three authors you proposed, Anna, Małgorzata Lebda would be ideal for this year's festival. She's gifted in several genres, is truly original, has superb translators, plural, and 2 new books just out in English. Her festival panel is entitled Back to Nature, and she appears with the Bulgarian writer Zdravka Evtimova and the Estonian novelist Karolina Pielgas, and it's chaired by the one and only Antonia Lloyd-Jones. Now, previous editions of the European Writers' Festivals have featured the Polish journalist and short story writer Małgorzata, another Małgorzata. This one is known as Margo Rejmer, who introduced us to her book Mud Sweeter Than Honey, which was her investigation into post-1989 Albania. And the year before that, we invited the investigative reporter Witold Szabłowski, the author of What's Cooking in the Kremlin. A reportage is clearly a really popular and successful contemporary genre in Poland. Is that right, Anna?
It is indeed. It's huge. There are special prizes just for reportage writing, and there are reportage books coming, left, right, and center from different publishers. It is very popular.
As a journalist, I'm really very much in favour of that. And they really are fantastic writers, these Polish reportage writers.
Before the European Writers' Festival was launched in 2023, the British Library ran another similar groundbreaking annual event, which I know you, Rosie, were instrumental in setting up and hosting. That initiative also came from Munich, and again, the European Cultural Institutes contributed. It was called European Literature Night, or ELN, and was held every year from 2009 for over a decade.
I can see a theme developing here in my life and in my work. This
Yes.
is really interesting spelling it out in this way, but it is fascinating. And for ELN, or the European Literature Night, I developed a format in which 6 to 8 authors who were selected from 50 to 70 submissions every single year from the UNIC member countries were interviewed by me, one after another, in 15-minute slots over one evening at the British Library, not a whole weekend, just one evening. It was a high-energy marathon, but it gave each author a spotlight and a starring role. And audiences really loved this format, and it really helped popularise European authors in English. We filmed many of the events, so you can still watch them on our YouTube channel on the European Literature Network. Now, do you remember all the amazing Polish authors who participated, Anna? And that's, again, thanks to the Polish Cultural Institute.
It's indeed a terrific list of exceptional writers, and it just goes to show how successful and prophetic you were in your selections. The list is quite long. In 2009, Paweł Hille appeared at European Literature Night. He was one of the absolutely biggest names in Polish literature. Very erudite, a writer who paid a lot of attention to detail, focused in his writing on his small homeland, that is Gdańsk. Unfortunately, he died 3 years ago, and it's a great loss to Polish literature, a loss of great talent. His perhaps most famous book is Who Was David Weiser, translated into English by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. And the book is kind of a response to Ginter Grass's Cat and Mouse. Hille published a few more titles in English, and all of those translations were the work of Antonia's.
You know, Anna, I really remember him so well. He was such a lovely man. And it is, as you say, it's a huge loss to Polish literature. He died far too young. And I do remember also, because it was our first European Literature Night, having terrible problems trying to pronounce his name. Because it's spelt Huelle, but it's pronounced Hille. As you can tell, I'm still, after all these years, stumbling over the Polish names.
Well,
but
not the easiest language, no.
thank goodness I've got you. The next one was not so difficult, though. So 2010, we had Jacek Denel,
Yes, and Jacek Denel is a poet, prose writer, and translator mainly from English, including Philip Larkin and W.H. Auden, but also from Russian, which I learned very recently. Both in his writing and in the way he dresses. He looks back in time. He wears those dapper tailored suits and cravats, and he clearly loves the old times and also literature, like Bruno Schulz. He is perhaps best known for his novel Lala, reimagining of the life of his grandmother, but he writes genre fiction as well, together with his husband Piotr Tarczyński. He's the author of crime fiction novels, a series, and they both write under the pseudonym Maryla Szymiczkowa. 2 years later, in 2012, Zygmunt Miłoszewski came to European Literature Night. He is an acclaimed author of crime novels, including Entanglement, Grain of Truth, and Rage, all three translated again by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. And the translation of Entanglement actually won Antonia the Polish Founding Translation Award in 2009.
That's a pretty big translation award in Poland, isn't it? Or from Polish, yeah.
It's for the best book translated in a calendar year into English. And it's awarded by the Book Institute in Poland, together with the Polish Cultural Institute in London and Polish Cultural Institute in New York. Then in 2015, ELNet hosted Wioletta Greg. She is the author of Finite Formulae and Theories of Chance, translated by Marek Kazimierski, a book of poetry which was shortlisted for one of the biggest poetry prizes in the world, the Griffin Prize. And she also wrote Swallowing Mercury, which is a novel translated by Eliza Marciniak. And this one, in turn, was longlisted for the Man Booker International Prize in 2017. And it's a wonderful novel about growing up in Poland in the 1980s. The book is partly autobiographical and is written in this absolutely amazing, vivid, very synesthetic language. You can tell I'm a big fan.
Me too. Me too.
There were also other writers from Poland appearing at European Literature Night over the years, including Bożena Kew, Olga Tokarczuk, Jacek Dukaj, Filip Springer, and Adam Zagajewski. So really a very, very strong list.
Some people say, because there are so many writers, so many European writers, that they get lost in the crowd. But I think they don't. I think it really enhances the writing, really. There's a kind of intensity. Anna, do you think it made a difference or makes a difference to these writers to appear at these festivals and the European Literature Night and so on?
That's a difficult question, but I think there are two aspects to it. One is having your book translated or at least featured in English and in the UK. That's huge, especially if you're coming from a small language. That's very important to every writer in Poland. That's one aspect of it. But I think maybe more important than that is the exchange platform. Festivals like European Writers Festival create that kind of platform for exchange of ideas. You bring writers from different countries and you put them on panels together. So you're not presenting them in isolation. You're actually nurturing a conversation between them. And I think it's immensely important. Important to the writers, important to the audiences. It's kind of seeing the writer and the book in a wider context, in conversation with another book, another writer, and not on its own in isolation.
It's really interesting for me to hear your view on that because, obviously that's something I feel really strongly about. I think that the impact of these festivals is huge. And, I'm very, very happy to hear you say that. And in fact, as you know, at the same time as the European Literature Night, I set up and created the European Literature Network, which is an organisation I set up to support the promotion and popularisation of translated European literature in the UK. In 2009, I just left the BBC after 20 years on the staff, and I was pretty fired up as a journalist to use these skills, my presenting, media and production skills, towards something worthwhile and to employ my specialist knowledge of European affairs and languages and interviewing and all that to something that I cared very much about, which is Europe and European culture. So there you have it. And you joined me very quickly.
Yes, I joined you and the network in 2012. I can't believe that it's going to be 15 years next year.
We don't look any older.
No. No, especially without the video footage attached.
Thank goodness this is an audio podcast.
It's an exciting adventure, I have to say, and a long-term adventure. And I'm very happy to be part of the network because very soon after I joined, we were running events and workshops and networking meetings. We had funding from Arts Council England. We had funding from Creative Europe. Those were the days. Now we are literally penniless thanks to Brexit and lack of grants and sponsorship, but we're still forging forward. Our website and blogs and reviews are still going strong, and we're staggering along.
Absolutely staggering along. But, another milestone which we shouldn't forget for you and for Polish literature in English, Anna, was when we published the Polish Riveter magazine in 2017. Now, that was our first ever magazine of European literature in English to celebrate the Polish guest country focus at London Book Fair that year. Now, we've since published 12 Riveter magazines in total from around Europe, but I'll never forget our firstborn, which showcased exclusive writing by none other than Olga Tokarczuk, Witold Misiewski, Philip Springer, Jana Żwianowska, Julia Firoczuk, Justyna Bagilieszka, and Deborah Levy. We may lack funding, but, we never lack ambition. And then there were all the other Polish literary spin-offs, the events, reviews and interviews that we did, and then the Queer Riveter, which featured the best-dressed writer in Poland, Jacek Dejno.
And not to forget the Polka blog, which I began on our European Literature Network website in 2024, and which has the goal of sharing my excitement about my Polish literary discoveries of new books, writers and poets. And now here we are with the Polka podcast. Next step, Polish Literature Festival in the UK. We haven't done that yet, Rosie.
That is true. That is true. Watch this space, you never know. I think, though, we can both say that we have very much done our bit to support Polish writers in the UK. Now, for me, it's always, whatever it is, it's always about creating ecosystems in which authors can flourish. The festivals are really important, yes, but we need to include the translators, the publishers, the booksellers, schools and universities, and of course, our readers. Our readers are so important. And this brings us bang up to date with the European Writers' Festival and Małgorzata Lebda. We have an exclusive interview for this, our Polka podcast, with Małgorzata and with her translator, Antonia Lloyd-Jones.
A little bit of background first. Małgorzata Lebda is a Polish poet and fiction writer, but also a mountaineer, ultra-marathon runner and photographer. She is the author of 6 poetry collections, including the award-winning volumes Queen Cells and Dreams of the Uckermärkers. Her poetry collection Mer de Glace received the Wisława Szymborska Award. Her prose debut, Voracious, has been widely nominated for prizes, including this year's Dublin Literary Award.
And Antonia Lloyd-Jones, whose name you've already heard many times on this podcast and on our previous podcast, and will hear many times more in future podcasts, has translated works by many of Poland's leading contemporary novelists and reportage authors, as well as classics, biographies, essays, crime fiction, poetry, and children's books. Her translation of Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead by the 2018 Nobel Prize laureate Olga Tokarczuk was shortlisted for the 2019 Man Booker International Prize. And her recent publications include translations of Voracious, a novel by Małgorzata Lebda, and as editor and co-translator, The Penguin Book of Polish Short Stories. Now it's over to you, Antonia and Małgorzata. Thank you.
I'm very pleased to be here on the Polka podcast with Małgorzata Lebda. Thank you, Polka podcast, for inviting us. And Małgorzata Lebda is a remarkable writer whose achievements include not just prize-winning poetry and fiction, but photography and marathon running, all of which wind together intriguingly in her work, as we shall discuss. Welcome to the Polka podcast, Małgorzata.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Your novel Voracious is about a young woman who returns to the village of her childhood in the Beskid Highlands of southern Poland to help care for her dying grandmother. Through her sensual narrative, we learn about her human relationships with both her grandparents, with her close friend Anne, with other residents of the village, and with her own childhood self. Would you please tell us how you came to write this book?
So, this is a story I have carried with me for a decade, and I wanted to capture how voracious an illness can be. And I knew I could write this book seeing the illness take my mother's body, and I kept whispering something like that to myself. You are so voracious, illness. But in that critical moment, I realized that when you are facing a disease, everything feels ravenous. Time, nature, instincts, desires, and love, and maybe love more than anything. But to put it simply, this story is rooted in my own life, but I use fiction in order to be more honest. The characters are a sum of my life experience, the loves, the fears, the disappointments, and the hopes. I hear from readers that for them, this is a book where they can explore different kinds of love and ways of loving. And yes, I really resonate with that.
Thank you. Nature is ubiquitous in this book on every imaginable level. We see the relationships not just between human beings and other human beings, but between human beings and animals, domestic pets, farm cows, wild animals, and even insects. And we also encounter nature as such, the forest, the weather, the stream, the light. Here, everything is alive. But everything has a flip side, and light, or life, is constantly contrasted with dark or death. Grandma is dying, the cows are being slaughtered, the hillside is collapsing, the dogs are killers. Please, would you tell us something about the role of nature in your work?
The setting for Voracious is my native rural landscape. It's my natural habitat. And I spent my childhood and my teens in places like that. So for me, life has always been deeply connected to nature, the landscape and the weather. And honestly, I'm not sure I could even write a book set in a city. It it's just not my space. And even after living in Krakow for over a dozen years, I still don't fully feel connected to the city or know how to navigate it. So choosing this setting felt like the only natural choice for this story. And you asked me what is the role of nature in my writing, and to be precise, this is the material I draw from.
The writer Max Porter, who will be familiar to many listeners, I think, has described Voracious as an intensely beautiful and unusual book about care and interconnectedness, which has an inherent peace and musicality unlike anything I have read. And it's true that your prose writing has very much developed out of your poetry. Voracious was written after your fifth collection of poetry, Mer de Glace, which is to be published in English next month. Can you please say something about the close connection between your poetry and your prose?
It's wonderful to hear such praise from Max Porter. I really admire the courage and imagination in his writing. So As you noted, my prose is deeply rooted in my poetry. For me, writing prose is natural extension of being a poet. I approach the page like a photographer, working in short, focused shots rather than broad strokes. And I love the precision this offers. It allows the prose to stay rhythmic, musical, and plastic. Actually, I once read somewhere that prose writers need a poet's patience, and it rings true. In this respect, Max Porter is definitely a kindred soul to me.
Voracious is now being made into a movie by the acclaimed director Jagoda Szelts. And it's clear to me that the visual nature of your writing must have appealed to her as a filmmaker. How do you, as the author and, as it were, owner of the original story, feel about handing your baby over to Jagoda for the screen version? I've read the script and I can see that she's made some bold and interesting changes for the purpose of her own genre.
I am excited to see the results. It's not just my story anymore. It's becoming something visual, passed through someone else's eyes. And I have great trust in the director and the whole amazing, amazing team. I have seen them work and I have seen how deeply they are connected to this story. So for me, it's a great things. And I know how deeply you are connected to this story too. So thank you for that. And I am curious about your process while translating the language of this novel. Could you say something about this?
Thank you. Question for me. It was a fascinating book to translate, and I was a bit daunted at first because I realized I needed to approach it as a whole, like an epic poem, because the writing is very lyrical and you use all sorts of poetic techniques, such as echoes and contrasts. So the translator has to tune into those effects and reproduce them. And as you know, I was curious to see the landscape and to meet nature as you describe it. So I went to visit you before starting work to experience the atmosphere of the place and to appreciate that balance between life and death, which really is palpable there. So my visit was part of my translation process too.
Oh, great.
Shall we read some extracts from Voracious? Małgosia, do you want to read a little bit in Polish so that people can hear it?
Yes, of course. Las. Babka śpi ukołysana morfiną. Na podłodze pokoju rozłożyłam książki, które były przez długie lata jedynymi w tym domu. Wiele tu pozycji o hodowli bydła i hodowli pszczół.
Forest. Grandma sleeps, lulled by morphine. On the floor of her room, I have spread out the books that for years on end were the only ones in this house. Many are about cattle breeding and beekeeping. I turn the yellowed pages. Here and there I see words added in pencil, and also sketches of animals drawn by Grandpa's hand. Pictures have always spoken to him more forcefully than words. The door to the hall is wide open. The door to Grandma's room is slightly ajar. This place needs air, some wind, I'm thinking. I hear something shuffling across the floor and a scream like a child's at the door of the room. I open it fully. Azrael, the cat, has come here from May, from the village battleground, covered in blood. His left ear is bitten, his left eye is coated in gore. He's trailing a back paw behind him. I look. I reach my hands towards him. He hisses and runs forward. He leaves a rusty trail behind him. He crosses the spread-out books and goes towards the bed and sleeping Grandma. He tries to scramble onto it. He does it in silence. After a few unsuccessful attempts, he sits still. He's looking at me. I'm afraid of his blood. I want to protect Grandma's body from it. Help him, she says, as if through her sleep. I fold a checked blanket and place it under his paws. He starts moving. Up this step, he manages to get onto the bed. The eiderdown sags beneath his weight. The animal locates Grandma's belly and lies down on it. The white bedding assumes some red. Grandma reaches out a hand to the cat's head. He rubs against it. She touches something wet, raises her fingers to her eyes and inspects them. She puts the blood to her nose and sniffs. Forest and wind, she says. Yes, I reply. Grandma puts her hand back on the cat's head. She stays in this position. Shh, she says to the cat, and falls asleep. The animal falls asleep too. A chapter of the book about cattle reproduction and how to inseminate cows by Władysław Głód has taken on colour. So that's one piece. I think we've got one other tiny little extract. And I think they both show Małgosia's technique of writing in, as it were, snapshots. So, Małgosia, please would you read the opening lines of the second extract?
Cytrusy. Luty przyniósł śnieg. Najpierw dziadek karmi głębokie brzuchy naszych krów, chwilę później karmi wielki brzuch centralnego pieca, a poprzez to karmi wstawione już żebra kaloryferów.
Citrus. February has brought snow. First, Grandpa feeds the deep bellies of our cows. A little later, he feeds the great belly of the central furnace, and through it he feeds the now instated radiator ribs. The stable is part of this house. As a child, I thought all houses were home to both people and animals, and that everywhere you went downstairs through a cupboard into the stable. It was years before I discovered that our house is the only one like it in this valley. Whence the idea of living above the animals, of the house rising from the stable? I ask Grandpa at daybreak as we're mucking out together. You need to be able to hear the animals, he says. We live above the animals. Over the past few decades, the whole house has become imbued with the smell of horses, cows, pigs, hens and turkeys. It's the first thing I sensed, that smell, said Anne, when in a cloud of citrus perfume she entered the house after her long journey. I'm made of that smell, I tell her. I can recognize that smell anywhere, and I can be recognized by it.
Thank you, Antonia.
And now, both of you, I can tell what all the fuss is about. It's amazing. Małgosia, you have such a beautiful voice, too.
Oh,
It's
thank
lovely
you.
to hear your
You
voice.
should hear
I
her
know-
reading more. It's wonderful.
and I know and love your voice already.
So we've got a little bit more.
Brilliant, yeah.
Please can you tell us about Mer de Glace? I'm intrigued to read that this collection of poems is connected in your mind with an extraordinary journey that you made when you ran the length of the Vistula River from its source in the mountains where you grew up all the way to its mouth on the Baltic Sea near Gdańsk. And would you describe this book as belonging to the genre of eco-poetics?
These poems are a record of working with the body and imagination during the crisis we live in. And I wrote them while training to run over 1,100 kilometers, and it is over 650 miles in a month. And it was a time of big changes in my life, a moment to start afresh. And we were also in the middle of the pandemic, reflecting on a new reality. And at the same time, I was thinking about how poetry can be a form of activism. And I chose the title Mer de Glace, which is the name of glacier because I have visited many times. And every visit showed me how fast it is disappearing. So the glacier isn't just a metaphor for the climate crisis, it is real evidence of loss. And this book, for me, is a lament for a passing world, but it is also rooted in hope. And if eco poetry means truly caring for the world, then this book fits right into those ideas.
There's one thing I'm really curious about. You spoke about the eco poetry, if you like, but I wonder about the rhythm of running and of swimming and of mountaineering. I know you're a great sportswoman. And does the rhythm of running actually contribute to the rhythm of your poetry?
Oh, yes, yes, this is really great intuition. I am the person who is body creature, this is a really important part of my life.
You're very physical, I think. Your poetry is very physical.
Yes, yes. And uh, when I'm thinking about Mer de Glace and when I'm thinking about Voracious, these books showed me that for me, the connection between body and mind, it's really straight, it's even for me, it's something totally like the same thing. So yes, yes, that's
It's
true.
very direct. Yes, you can feel it.
Yes, exactly.
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. I can imagine you actually even speaking the poetry as you run, as you swim, as you climb. Maybe one day we can do some recordings of you in action.
Oh, yes.
You become very famous as a mountaineering, running poet.
Poet.
Thank you. Can we just read 3 very short poems from the collection in Polish and in English?
Karmienie psów. Ranki tu w wilgotnej dolinie są dobre. O końcu świata, który trwa, przypominam sobie nieczęsto, są bowiem sprawy ważniejsze. Zażyć rano tabletkę utyroksu, umieścić ćwiartkę deksybaktinu w pyszczku kota i jeszcze nakarmić psy, opowiedzieć psom sen, wyprowadzić psy. Ranki tu są dobre, spokojne, ciągną się do samej nocy.
The feeding of the dogs. Mornings here in the damp valley are good. The end of the world that continues rarely comes to mind, since other matters are more important. Take euthyrox first thing, get a quarter doxybactin in the muzzle of the cat, and also feed the dogs. Tell the dogs your dream. Take the dogs for a walk. Mornings here are good, serene, reaching all the way to the dark.
Umowa. Podnosimy dawkę utyroksu, mówi moja jasna pani endokrynolog. Tak, koniecznie. Jej głos odprawia święto, a ja nie mogę oderwać myśli od tego, jakie przepisy łamiemy, chowając zwierzęta w ziemi, za domem, w ogródku, nieopodal tego, co jedzone. I dodaje: jeśli decydowałaby się pani na dzieci, proszę koniecznie to ze mną wcześniej ustalić. Umowa?
Deal. We're upping your dose of euthyrox, my luminous endocrinologist says. Yes, it's necessary. Her voice performs the rites, and I can't help but think of the rules we're breaking. Burying animals in the ground, out back in the garden, not far from what gets eaten. And she adds, if you decide to have children, be sure to discuss it with me first. Deal?
Z ciała 6. Dzisiaj było posłuszne. Możliwe, że chodziło o proste sprawy, pokryte rdzą brzozy, jary, w których rodziła się noc, skórę, która wilgoci to welur. I jeszcze to, cukier z borówek i białko z grochu. I jeszcze to, lądolud, który przesuwał tu swój ciężar. I jeszcze to, słowa, te, co robią nam w środku radykalne rzeczy.
From the body, 6. Today it was obedient. Perhaps it was a matter of simple things. Birch trees covered in rust, ravines giving birth to the night, skin that turns velour in moisture. And also this, sugar from blueberries, protein from peas. And also this, the ice sheet shifting its weight over here. And also this, words, the ones that do radical things inside us. These poems have been translated by Mira Rosenthal, and they're in the collection Mer de Glace, which will be published by Fitzcarraldo Editions this month. And that means that there are 3 opportunities to explore Małgorzata Lebda's work in English. Voracious is available from Linden Editions, in my translation. There's a poetry collection called Queen Cells, which is available from Broken Sleep Books, in translation by Elżbieta Wojcik-Lis. And as I've said, Mer de Glace, translated by Mira Rosenthal, is coming from Fitzcarraldo Edition.
Małgorzata, if I may, I also have a quick question about your latest book in Polish, Dunaj Hyłe Pola, which was published in Poland last year and is already getting some accolade and gathering prizes. Is there a plan to have that translated into English? And second question, are you gonna write another prose book or not after Voracious?
So, Dunaj Hyłe Pola, I must admit that maybe this is the most important poetry book that I wrote, and it will be wonderful to see this book in English. So, I hope so.
What's the title again of that one?
The title it's Dunaj.
It's difficult in English.
Oh yes, Antonia, please help us.
Well, Dunaj means Danube, and it is not only the name of a river, it's the name of Małgosia's beloved dog, who I had the privilege of meeting. I'm glad to say he's sadly no longer with us, but he is in Voracious, where I did call him Danube. And oh, how would you translate this? It's taken from the name of that documentary, isn't it, Małgosia?
Yes,
There are those
yes.
documentary films.
Yes, Władysław Ślesicki.
Yes, which I've watched because you told me about it. How would you translate Hyłe, Anna? Because it means Danube something fields, but that word is odd in the middle. It's not a standard word at all.
Slanted.
Sloping or something like
Yes.
that, but it sounds very odd.
It's quite an archaic word. It's not a word you hear often
That's it.
used in Poland.
I like the fact that we're translating as the podcast actually happens. This is fantastic.
Slanting field. Danube slanting fields.
Oh wow, great.
But with this hint to this documentary. But we would have to ask Mira, because Mira is the translator who will be translating the poetry.
So that's the answer to my question, whether that's coming in English.
I don't know if anything has been signed and sealed, but I know that there is willingness.
Good.
Put it that way.
Well, we shall push it with all our might, all our polka dancing might, to make sure it does happen.
And what about the other prose book? Are you working on something in prose?
Yes, I am in the process, and I hope it will be in Polish in the next year. So I am really, really excited about this moment in my creative life.
And we are very privileged to actually catch you in this creative moment of your life. It's really wonderful to hear this. Thank you both so much. That was absolutely beautiful.
Małgorzata Lebda, thank you very much for talking to the Polka podcast.
Thank you. I'm really happy, grateful, and see you soon in Great Britain.
Thank you so much to Małgorzata Lebda and Antonia Lloyd-Jones for that absolutely lovely interview. Małgorzata Lebda is appearing this month, at the European Writers' Festival, as well as other events in Oxford and at the Polish Hearth Club in London. She returns to the UK in August for Edinburgh International Book Festival. She will certainly have caught a flavour of this absolutely thriving UK literary festival landscape by then. We hope you've enjoyed the Polka podcast.
You can find more information about the festivals, authors, and books we've been discussing under the heading The Polka Podcast on our websites. That is eurolitnetwork.com and instytutpolski.pl.
Make a date with the Polka podcast every 2 months. We'll be bringing you the best of Polish writing in English, the prose, poetry, non-fiction, reportage, children's literature, and graphic novels. All those Polish books you need to know, as well as those Polish books we hope will be translated into English.
Join us again, same time, same place, for our next episode when we focus on new poetry coming from Poland.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye for now from me, Rosie Goldsmith.
And from me, Anna Błasiak.